The first thing I'm going to say just a little bit about University of Vermont and our context and why we think about recruitment and outreach all the time is that our program's only 5 years old and we have no journalism major or minor. So all of our students are choosing to be in our classes. And that's really challenging. It's really challenging. So these are electives. And because there is no discipline, there's no home per se, it's, we are the ones really that have to go out and recruit the students. So it's not like it's a requirement for anything they're doing. Did you find those, you guys? Or I'll just keep going. Yeah, thank you. I worked so hard on this. Um, all right, broad overview. Molly, Holly, we only are going to have speakers whose names rhyme. It's a new rule here at CCN. Your ideas and open it up. Next slide, Sarah. Um, so I just thought that was important for you all to know why we have to think about this all the time. In some of your programs, your journalism in general across the country is flat. At some of the bigger schools, it's still growing. At some of the smaller schools, there's a scarcity environment. We totally get that. So all of you are going to have different experiences here, but here at UVM, University of Vermont, we started this about 2019. It's not a major or minor. The classes are actually called internship classes. So they're coded as internships, but they're managed internships, which was kind of how helped us come up with this whole idea is that the external media partners didn't have the resources to manage students, so we had to manage them internally. But the way to give students was to call it an internship class. And sometimes they're called communities of practice. There's 7 or 8 of these across the university in different areas. We're the ones that manage the journalism ones. So we are constantly recruiting. Next. And then just here are some ideas that I want to put out there, categories to broadly speak to. Like all of you, I'm guessing we are measured in some ways on the student credit hours. So although these are called internship classes, every student is registered for 3 credits. So somebody here counts the number of students we have enrolled in our classes by the number of credits they're enrolled by. And then the number of majors and minors are not metrics for us, but just butts in the seat, as they say, number of students in our offerings. How I want to broadly talk about how you put what you're doing in the context of what's happening around us in the university world. Different ways people are thinking about the classes, some of the just direct hands-on organizing we do to fill these classes, and some people are using social media and other communication techniques. And then lastly, any other things. Okay, everybody with me so far? Remember, use the chat function, put in, and I'm guessing many of you are thinking about this a lot and may have ideas to share. I know Beth does, and I can see her right there. But all right, next, Sarah. Okay, this is not going to be a surprise to you, but trust in higher ed has been declining, although there has been a little bounce back, apparently, recently. And part of what the criticism is that we've kind of lost touch with being relevant to what our students need when they graduate, and also how we're engaging in our communities. We've become that cliche, the tower on the hill. So you have that criticism of higher ed, and I've been going to all these higher ed conferences lately to try and spread the gospel of what we're doing, and I just hear over and over the concerns about how we meet this crisis really in higher ed. that comes from these declining trust and sense that our students aren't getting what they need to graduate, the value, what they call the value proposition sometimes. And we also know that our students, you guys all know this, they want real things. Students want the agency of doing real things in hands-on internships. All of that is stuff they want to do, but it's going to be critical to them to graduate. So I would argue, and I think all of you should argue, that you are a huge part of the solution. You are giving your university a ready-made solution to this crisis that they are facing, this existential crisis. Your programs are all high impact learning. You are actually engaging with the community, doing things that really are of real value. And these concerns about democracy and trust, who better than people trying to teach and practice journalism to engage that? And then I put some of the buzzwords so if you're not using these language or if you don't know them, this is maybe something we can get in our report, but experiential learning, high impact learning, community engagement, civic learning. These are all the sort of language that I hear in higher ed. Next. All right. This now I'm just going to get way more granular. Active learning. Thank you, Aaron. Active learning. Yeah. All of that. This all varies, depends on who you are and what your school is and what your journalism program is. And my dogs are going wild. Don't know how many of you have prerequisites, but we have found in talking to schools that that is sometimes a burden in getting students into your classes. In some cases, like in our case, we're able to pay some students at the higher level. That makes it attractive, obviously. Others are paying their students a little bit once in a while. There may be funding a university for doing that, particularly in the summer. Ponder populating, so we work with our political science and English program quite a lot. Those are two of the more popular programs here at UVM. We're not so much making the case that their students are going to be journalists, but they're learning. If they want to learn about writing, who better than us? If they want to learn about government, who better than us? We're having a struggle with how we name our classes. Think about how you name them. Those of you who have options for electives, those of you who have bigger journalism programs have all sorts of courses on the books. You can kind of revisit them and pull them up as needed. Or as you're going to hear from Molly, think about sports classes or arts. We've had great success with students writing kind of what we call arts and life. So what I'm saying is meet the students' interests where they are. And then lastly on this, and again, be interested to hear what you have to say. We haven't been able to do this with our classes yet, or maybe we have with the student, but there are designations that the university gives classes that make them required for students to graduate. And some of you may have that. So at UVM, you have to graduate with a service learning class, I believe, SL. So you could get I think Scott Finn may have done this. He can tell us got our classes designated SL. It's possible because they're internship classes. We haven't been able to do that. But before I had a class that I got designated SU, which is at UVM sustainability, and students had to require with a sustainability designated class. So those of you who are in bigger programs, there may be other designations that will help you bring students into your classes. All right, next. Organizing. So this may be a foreign concept, but for many years I was an organizer before I was a faculty member. And we do things like we put up posters. I'm thinks that moderately successful unless you do poster illegally, like put them on glass doors and stuff. Timing is everything. You have to think about when your students are when class registration becomes available for us, it's a week in April. And about 2 or 3 weeks before that, the schedule of courses goes live. There's a group of students who, as soon as that schedule of courses goes live, they're like writing down their courses and then they put it down, then they register the day it opens for them. There's another half or so who are still kind of open and movable. So if you can target your outreach in that window, that's going to have the highest impact, I believe. We do these postcards, so we put in mailboxes and we hand out. We have done what's called tabling, where you have a table, less enthusiastic about that. And then we've been doing these things called class talks or class wraps, which I think is tremendously effective but exhausting. And you just ask your faculty friends to go into the class for 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning and you make a direct pitch. Students are so overwhelmed with emails that if you can just speak to them directly, it can make a difference. Even better than a faculty or you doing that is to get some good student leaders to do that. Word of mouth is critical. Students like your classes, they'll talk about it. And then having faculty advisors, if you're a school where there's students have to sit down with a faculty advisor, if those faculty advisors like what you're doing, that can help. Next. Other, and here I'm going to turn over to Molly and Holly, but electives that sound like fun. The fact that ours is an internship class was actually attractive to some students because people are telling them they have to do internships. Psh, we are an internship. Somebody was telling me just earlier today that they've been doing a great job of connecting with high schools in admitted students days. So as the students come in, they're right there, right at the beginning. All right, stop my slideshow and then Molly, if you want to talk for a minute or two, and then Holly, and then please, I want to hear from folks on this call. And thank you. And Molly, maybe you can introduce yourself and thank you for like jumping on this in the middle of what for all of you is a busy, busy time. I know.
Yes, freshman advising right now, so get my hands on them. Hi, folks. My name is Molly Yanity. I am the director of our sports media and communications major at University of Rhode Island. The program is only about that we're only in our fifth year, and we have 275 majors, which is very cool. But I have a journalism background. I myself was a sports writer for many years in Seattle. And one of the things that we do in this program is our senior capstone program, our senior capstone course is divided into two sections. And we are doing what we're calling the South County Sports Desk and the South County Sports Agency. And this is where we are connected with CCN. Our journalism program is connected doing a community news lab, and we're sort of an offshoot of this with the different uh, with the different major. But the sports desk is going out into the community and covering high school sports. We're launching our website in the fall. This was kind of our pilot year. Where the students are writing stories, but most of our students are actually more interested in on-camera work and sort of behind the scenes with the TV production. So we are going to be doing partnering with the high schools to cover their games, do live streams, and put together features on athletes, coaches, whatever, and doing a weekly in-studio show specifically about the high schools, the high school sports. Now, because our major is not just a journalism major, it's all of the communications and all the medias, which is a lot. But we're with the agency part of it, the students are putting together PSAs and social media campaigns around issues in high school sports. So we're still working with the high schools, still going out using our camera equipment, using the tools that the major has prepared the students to use, but doing more PSA and campaign work around issues in high school sports, like student athlete mental health, concussion safety sorts of things. And right now, on one hand, like it's funny, Richard, you're putting up all those buzzwords about what our administrators are looking for. Yes, right now we are doing the active learning and the experiential learning. But the other thing that is really cool about this, especially from that administrative buzzword frame, is that we are looking to turn this into a revenue stream, which that's the buzzword that they also want to hear. Doing our own advertising. We are not actually partnering with a news outlet, but we're doing this on our own, and we're doing it on our own because we wanted that revenue stream to possibly come to fruition. There's the NFHS, National Federation of State High Schools, has a subscription based streaming service where you can watch any high school game. Like I live in Rhode Island, or I live in Connecticut. I watch my nieces play their sports in North Carolina, and I can watch those. But our students will be adding to those by doing the actual broadcast. Like I can watch someone just has a camera in the stands doing that, but our students are actually providing then the play-by-play and color commentary for those two. So given that that is where that's the major I'm in, overseeing, and the interests of the students, they have to take this class. So I don't really have to worry about the recruitment part. But the one thing that is challenging because of the they have to take it part is the quality control with the students who just aren't very good at this. So still giving them opportunities while also trying to mitigate uh, disasters or managing the quality control. That is a challenge, but I'm not hurting for students right now, and we are actually we're recruiting and working with our admissions department using this model. So that's my spiel.
Because sports is of such great interest with students. We did a little report a year ago or so, and we found 1,000% increase in sports communications students across the country. And Molly, I know you, in your 4 years or so, the program has grown.
Yeah.
Holly, can you say a word or two about, like, from a student perspective, why did you ever sign up for one of our classes and then do a second class? And what got you in the door?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Holly Sullivan. I attended UVM and I did the Community News Service student reporting internship for my last 2 semesters at UVM. And the reason I joined it was kind of twofold. So for one, I think like many other students, I was told you need to do an internship before you graduate. But it's really difficult to find internships. And this class was marketed to me as an internship for class credit. So rather than taking 5 courses and then trying to find the time on top of my other jobs to do an internship, I could take 4 classes and then also have an internship. So that was really appealing to me. I also grew up in Boston and Burlington, Vermont, where UVM is. I don't know if anyone's ever been to UVM, but it's kind of a bubble compared to the rest of Vermont. It's up north, it's the biggest city in Vermont. It feels very different from other sections of the state. And so I really wanted to get to know the place that I'd been living in and see some other parts of Vermont rather than just Burlington. So that was also a big draw for me. And then once I did the class, I just kind of fell in love with it and stuck with it. I was an English major, so I already was a fan of writing and communications, but regardless of that, I know people who are business majors or environmental science majors who have also loved this. And then now I am one of the editors for Community News Service, and I always try to get in the mindset of myself when I'm trying to recruit students. So I think class talks and word of mouth helps a lot, but the main thing that I like to tell students is that this is a class where everyone's afraid of the job market. Everyone's like competing about what their LinkedIn's look like and are very stressed about it. Everything's unprecedented. But this is an opportunity for students to have bylines and have physical proof of the work that they've been doing for their community. And that really gives them a leg up in the job market, in addition to just being really fun. But I think that's a big draw for students, is knowing that this will set them apart from other candidates in future job applications.
Nice. Let's open it up a little bit. I'll start with you, Beth, because I know you wrote me. Beth, you also have to recruit all the time.
Well, I want
Potter.
to give a shout out to Aaron also. Aaron was nice enough to let me come and recruit in his club. And so we ended up putting some things together with some CU students and some Front Range Community College students. So that was really amazing. But I realized that the internship idea is easier to go along with the funding, because otherwise you're always like, on the one side you're trying to get the funding, on the other side you're trying to do the recruiting, and all the students are telling each other about it. So why not just give them that internship credit? So as I move into like a bigger model, I think it'll become more than, I'm not sure yet if we will do, but what we did was we had a tour at the state capitol, and then we had students do a vertical video. And so two groups of students already have sent me their videos, Aaron. So that was really cool. But we had a CBS Colorado, a person from CBS Colorado come and work with the students on that, because students say, "Oh yeah, we know how to do video," and I'm like, "Okay, show me." And so it's a lot better even if you have somebody who gives them tips and tricks, who's not me, because I always am the one who like taught them how to do the broadcast scripts and the basic pieces and everything. So I think we're still a work in progress, but we had a lot of enthusiasm. We had 14 students come to the Capitol, and then probably about 10 students right now. I don't know, Aaron, on your side, if you have more students too, but some of Aaron's students immediately sent me emails. They're like, "We want to be in this." So Aaron, do you want to say something too about this idea? I'm trying to do like force of, like bigger. In Colorado, you can have, I was at the University of Colorado and got my doctorate from the University of Colorado. So I started there and got the internship credit. And then MSU Denver also said you could do it for internship credit. And then I kind of started reaching out to other universities, and I reached out to Aaron because he is a faculty champion. So I'll be quiet now, Aaron.
I don't have a whole lot to add to what Beth said, other than it was a good partnership that came together through the CCN network. And my students were just really enjoyed the opportunity. I mean, they did it as part of our student media publication, the front page. My classes tend to be low enrolled, and also like the skill level. Since I'm at a community college, I'm still doing a lot of news literacy stuff and helping them with that. But by the time they're in the student media, they want to be there, and I know all of them were really excited about the opportunity. A lot of them had never been to the Capitol before, so it was and we live less than 10 miles away from it. So it was just good to open up that space to them. And I think like that really built some enthusiasm too, in terms of having those connections and meeting with representative. They were able to meet with representatives. And so it was a good experience, first time. So we'll see what the metrics are after, as we keep going down the road.
All right, questions, comments, who's doing what to recruit students? Some of you are in environments where overall enrollment at your university is declining. That makes it tougher. Some of you are in places where enrollment is increasing. I find that, how do you ride that wave? Yeah. Questions, comments, or thoughts that you want to share? Anybody? And Colleen, why don't you just say a word about what you do? Because I didn't say anything about social media and communications, but I am sure you do a lot of that to create a buzz around your program.
Yeah, I'm at Franklin College in Indiana. It's 900 kids, and I've this is my fifth year at Franklin. I taught 5 years at a big state university that had, I think, 26,000 kids, and the way I get them is, I think, the same, which is try really hard to get to know them personally, invite them personally, make them feel seen, and make them feel like they'll have a place in the program, and then create like some low-hanging fruit for the noobs. So we're not a capstone program. We have 3 times as many sports comm people as anybody else. And so I try to lure them to the dark side, which is the state house with Super Bowl credentials, NFL combine credentials. I hate sports. I love tailgates. I hate sports. But a lot of the sports comm kids don't know what it is they like. And so you start them at the football game, and then they come back for the state house. So yeah, I'm always doing like a full Broadway musical. I'm going to classes. I'm creating social media teams for PR kids. So, for primary day in Indiana is coming up. So I'll have a PR team that just does our social media. I'll have a web development team that just does our web loading and our live blogging. I'll have kids out in the field that have never done anything before, like maybe never talked to a stranger before, but I'll have like a veteran student leading them. And I got the whole like journalism department to cancel their classes that day so that everybody has excused absences. So I just try to make it super, super easy to get in the door and then try to be very charming so they come back.
All right, I'll just reinforce a couple things Colleen just said. Easy to get in the door. This traveling around the country like I do, I get a sense that journalism programs are stuck sometimes in all this old way of thinking about things that you have to have all these prereqs. You couldn't possibly produce a story if you hadn't done this, this, and this. And the universe is changing.
I sort of
Um,
hate the concept of making them start with Watergate, like end with Watergate. Start with, the longest flea market in the world. Like start with something they're interested in and it's easy and that they can succeed in right away. And then try not to be a monster the first time you meet them, and then you'll get them back and they'll turn into Watergate, hopefully.
Gateway drug.
A gateway drug, yes.
Sarah, do you want to briefly tell your LSU story? Because it's fits here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Colleen. I was a student like 10 years ago at LSU, and I kind of like Holly, I was already into writing. I knew I didn't want to be an English teacher, so I went into journalism. Um, and I was actually about to like switch my major because I was really discouraged. I didn't like working for student media. They had me on the crime beat, and Baton Rouge was just really messy that year. I was stressed out. So anyway, um, I was working really hard, but I was really just not liking it. And I was just not really seeing a future in journalism. And then a professor called me to his office and he was like, we have this program where we are sending kids to the State House, sending students to the State House. It's in its pilot year. We're going to do it again next year. We think you have potential. We'd like for you to do it. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not interested. I don't want to cover politics. And he said, well, it fulfills a degree requirement. And that changed my mind. I was like, okay, I'll just suffer through it. And I'll do it for one semester and then get it over with. And then, like Colleen said, the professor who was teaching it was scared us all. Like he was just very curmudgeonly. He was like a veteran reporter. He was very good at what he did. And I was just really nervous about working under him. And he was the opposite of a monster once he started editing us and guiding us. And yeah, I got hooked on the first night in the State House. And then I actually repeated the class the next year as an elective because I loved it so much. And then I went on to cover the State House for several years. So I think like the moral of the story that I tell faculty is I think really and to Colleen's point, you kind of lure them in with a carrot because I never would have done that class if it hadn't fulfilled a degree requirement. I would have not been interested at all. But it was like it was an opportunity to do something I wouldn't have otherwise done with hours that I had to use toward that requirement anyway. And I think that makes a huge difference. That's
I
all.
see in the chat, Josh, you have, not to call you on the spot, but you have a writing requirement and then your courses might count towards that. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I mean it's sort of like it's not a general education class, but it's a category of classes that students, I don't even know how many they have to take, but it's across the whole school. So one of the challenges that we have right now is I'm in I teach photojournalism. We have a faculty of 4 photojournalism teachers in a art school, in a photo school actually. And our journalism major, which is in a different college at Rochester Institute of Technology, has just closed. Basically, they've cut it off. So we have a lot of photojournalism students, and then we have very few journalism writing students. But we have a class right now called community journalism, which has been offered for years and has always been co-taught with a journalism writing faculty and a photojournalism faculty. But the other major has now gone away. And my co-teacher and I, he was an adjunct retired reporter, we have begun the works of creating a hyperlocal publication that will cover a inner city neighborhood in Rochester going forward. But to do that, of course, we have to offer the class every semester all the time. And one of the big challenges, I guess, among others, is just sort of a personal challenge for me is thinking about how I get the teaching credit, what the benchmark is for enrollment. Um, and I was going to share, RET is part of a really interesting program, which I'm just learning about called Vertically Integrated Project, which is based at Georgia Tech. And I don't think RIT pays to be part of it, so some of you could look into it. But it's essentially a faculty research project, which in this case would be this publication, which we have not launched yet. and it allows students to interact and do research on that. So it could be in sciences and anything really. And I'll put a link in the chat when I'm done speaking here. But the unique thing about it is that students that are enrolled, it can be a class. Students in that same class can take it for 1, 2, or 3 credits. They can take it at a 200, a 400, or a grad 600 level. And members of the community can be involved in the project, not taking the class. And members of the community or students could be paid to work on the project if there was money to pay them. And it's designed to be very long-term projects. So these are, research projects that might take a decade, and it allows students to work on them for a long time. And so I was approached by a dean, and not my dean, but another dean that said, this kind of thing sounds like it could be great for the vertically integrated project. Because it allows a class to be held over a long period of time. It allows students to take it over and over again and continue to get credit. They can take it at different levels if they want. If they just want to be involved in a little bit, they can take it for 1 credit or 2 credits or even 3 credits. And so that is the program we're going to go forward with. We're going to have the class again next spring when we hope to launch the publication. We just did our focus group meeting last night, actually, with about 8 members of the neighborhood. But students are really engaged, and because of this writing intensive class, which is, I think you're right about how we brand it. I mean, it's not going to be a journalism publication, it's going to be a community publication that'll do a lot of things. But what we found is that the students came to the class because they're journalism students or photojournalism students. But we also got about half the students are physics majors, packaging science majors, a lot of technology majors, science majors, and they came to it because it's a writing intensive course. But when we asked them why they were interested in this course versus others, they seem to sort of say that it feels like they feel connected to something. They knew that they were going to be in the city, they were going to be connected with real people, and they didn't have that in their majors as much. And they felt that there was some civic engagement and just sort of part of like little d democracy too. And I think like that feedback that I got from the students was really helping me think about how I might label and call the course about civics, democracy, community engagement, and not as a journalism project because we're not going to have a journalism major anymore. And so it's going to be one of those like, thread the needle and they get the right title of the course, make sure that it's writing intensive listed so that students, when they're shopping for their courses, they come to it. And a lot of what I've learned from people like you all that have been doing this is that, I mean, like at Vermont, I mean, you don't even have the majors there, but they're really engaged. And I think that some of the benefits are getting those folks that are coming to this not because they're going to be a career journalist, but because they need more face-to-face interaction with people. They need experiences with people outside of their community, whatever that is. And this is going to put them in those situations to learn about other people, to be empathetic, to be curious about other people's community, I mean, Rochester Institute of Technology is in a suburb, and so it gets them out of the suburb. We find very few students are actually engaged in the city, especially those outside of a journalism career. And so anyway, it's really made me think a lot about that. And I wondered if some of you have any thoughts about how you've worked sort of with your deans in terms of the counting for course load and those kind of conversations. I'm comfortable if it sometimes is a small group that I would do it in addition to my workload, but if, I don't know how that's going to go. So I'm open to your feedback.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see if anybody, but I have to tell you, a couple of schools I know have reduced their faculty course load requirements who are teaching these classes. And if we at CCN could bring attention to the places where that's happening. Now, the one that jumps to mind is Denison. It's a small private school, of course, it maybe has more resources, but no longer does a faculty member be required to do a 3-2. If they're teaching one of these, they've reduced their load. Some schools have what they call professors of practice, which they can be tenure track, but they're not, research is not a requirement within that. It's this teaching, it's recognizing. And in my mind, research has become too big an emphasis in these colleges and universities and has lost, like what you're doing, Josh, that takes more time and effort, should be recognized in some way for promotion packages. But others, anybody want to also, for us, although it sounds successful, we do have to work all the time to recruit students. And in that way, we are also framing it that way. It's less about that they're going to go on to be journalists, but that these are interesting things that you get to try on, right? So very much in that vein. Anybody else who's doing this or trying to do things that are meeting the moment? Yeah, Ian. Okay, so Ian, you get a little bit of a reduction in your teaching. And Ian, you said that your class sizes went down the spring. For us, it's usually the opposite, i.e., students here we find in the fall, and then they talk it up, and then we get more students in the spring. It's sort of the momentum is, and then we have to start over again for the fall.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we seem to have the opposite pattern. We get a lot of people coming in and take our intro class because they have the wide general interest. We get English students, we get all kinds of students, and then enough of them don't follow over and take the ones in the spring. We're working on it, trying, we're changing course names to make it more appealing to broader audience, doing more outreach. We do a lot of outreach with our high schools, and I think that's why in the fall we get a good crop of students, and we have a lot of luck with the club rushes on our campus. More luck in the fall, just because I think everybody's excited. So we're trying to translate that to the spring, but it's been a struggle the last couple of years. We oftentimes our second production class gets canceled, which is a shame because then the output for our student paper goes down dramatically, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to bring on, the executive team on board to let us run it under enrolled, because without those production classes, we don't get the same engagement with the school paper. And then Josh was talking about like course counting for course credit. We're going to try experimenting with stacking classes so that we have two classes running at the same time, which would allow us to enroll, bring those two enrollment numbers together to run a single class. So things we're trying to fix it.
Others. Kate, how do you do it there? Yeah. UT Austin, UT El Paso, sorry.
Yeah, on the border. Um, so that was what I was working on last year, was like trying to get ideas, and this group has helped a lot, especially since some of you do this with grad students, and it hadn't been something that we had really considered to try to broaden it. So we have had for almost 15 years now a capstone program where students report as the staff of borderzine.com, and they cover life on the US-Mexico border. But everything that you're talking about, we're trying to think about, like the pathway of going through the traditional journalism classes, and all the prereqs, can we switch that up? And then how can we bring more in? And I love this. I love these ideas of ways of, like, I'm hearing things like, if I can develop it as an internship class, and how can I open it up? Because one of the things that we're looking at is that political science student or that science student or somebody else who might bring in subject matter expertise. And, we can train them up on some of the multimedia or team them up with one of our multimedia students. So we're going to test it out in the fall. So far, I do not have any grad students enrolling. I've got to go out and lure them in, I guess, and start dragging them on. But and I'm putting out flyers and trying to get the word out. I think one of the other concerns is, I'm hearing this from Sarah, of where we're turning students off, like where we're making it labor and not like connecting with their interests. And that's something I think is still kind of a challenge, because we're also looking at where students early in the program bounce out of it. And I think what comes in is that they want to be writers, and they want to write their journals and their feelings. And then we're like, oh, you have to do research and actually talk to real people and get this information. And we kind of grind them down a little bit and again, that other idea of starting with Watergate. And are there ways, I just love this group thinking about, like, are there ways that we can, like, give them a taste of what can be done, and then like skill them up?
Yeah. Others, Julie, Jennifer, you're on my screen. You want to say anything, Julie? Connecticut, Lee, Kentucky.
I mean, I can say, at Salisbury University, one of our challenges, we have a small communication program, not journalism. I'm currently our only journalism professor, but we do have a multimedia journalism concentration as well as a multimedia journalism minor. And so we do get students in that way. We just revamped our entire gen ed system to include things more like experiential learning, civic engagement, stuff like that, all of which journalism should fit neatly into. But because we're so early in the kind of revamp of the gen eds, the process is an absolute nightmare. And so beyond our basic kind of COM 101, 102 classes, we really haven't submitted a lot for those designations yet. And one that I want to work on to kind of drum up interest in our journalism writing program that really could help across the campus is we do have, instead of now a requirement for an English class, students need to take basically a writing intensive course, which our journalism one class certainly would meet the mark. But I haven't done it yet because we're down about 6 professors in our department due to hiring freezes. And so I'm the only journalism professor and can't handle more than just like the one, those classes that I teach. And then also I know we're going to get a lot of pushback from the English department because I think a lot of students would be more interested in taking journalistic writing than English lit writing. And so I'm kind of gearing up for a battle there. But our other issue that we've discussed, Richard, is that we don't really have a newspaper that students can intern with or work with here in town. We're definitely in a news desert. So if our students do internship at a journalism organization, it's with one of our 2 local TV stations. And so they don't have a chance to even get into journalistic writing unless they, do it at home during the summer somewhere over the bridge in the DC area or something along those lines. So that's something we've been kind of contending with here as well. So that's where we're at.
I love the idea of a required writing. English programs in general, the writing part of it is attractive to students. Holly can chime in on this. The Shakespeare and stuff is like falling off a cliff. So, so the English faculty tend to yeah, it tends to be seen as competition for students. And unfortunately, that's so true in our universities. We just heard Meg and I that our new president took all of our deans to Arizona State University to show them what is possible if you're like an entrepreneurial environment. Because, yeah, don't know how we're going to fix that, you guys. But if we can, from the outside, come in and say, look what Jennifer's doing, it's astonishing, or Josh, and help you win credibility within your college or university. Always think about us that way. Any others that want to chime in? Lee, please.
Yeah, before I got on, I was down. I was pretty much down because I just lost a student to English.
Yeah.
And I was like, he said, I want to write. I said, you do realize you write in journalism, correct? He was like, but I don't want to write journalism. He was like, I want to do creative writing. And I was like, I have an MFA in creative writing. You can do journalism with creative writing. So, but anyhow, we have rebranded to a multimedia journalism major. And I'm thinking now even we might need to do more leaning into content creation, entrepreneurial skills, kids going out on their own as like influencers and things like that, which I know hurts our souls to hear those words. But in areas where there are news deserts, these students might be able to create something, especially like rural Western Kentucky. There's not a lot of options here. The better options, of course, are Lexington, Louisville, Covington, Cincinnati area. Down here in the far western end, it's Murray and Paducah. We're the 2 biggest towns. And a lot of kids don't want to leave because they love our area. It's a great area to raise a family. It's beautiful. We've got lakes, we've got recreation. You can hunt, you can fish. It's a great area, just not a lot of jobs. So
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we're rebranding. Like I said, my podcasting class for the fall is full and overflowing, and there's even an English professor who wants to audit the class, and I'm a little like, um, I'll probably let him in, but that's okay. Um, but you know, my in-depth reporting class has two people in it right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to figure out how to navigate this. And hopefully that's why I popped on this morning is see if you guys had some ideas of how to increase majors. We're also trying to recruit for our student paper. And that comes and goes because we are completely self-funded, which is another issue. Richard's heard a lot about this from me in the past, I think. Um, we lost our university funding about 3 years ago. I'm trying to get it restored, but they said we could support ourselves with advertising. So we have been doing that, but that limits the number of students who can be involved because we have to pay them.
Right. You know, you never thought when you were a faculty member, you also had to be this nimble, entrepreneurial, inventive, creative. I mean, we do all this work because we love it, but we have to be at this moment in time. And I know you're working really hard, Leon. And the fact you're podcasting, so clearly you're meeting some clear student interest right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did have a TikTok class at one point, so I'm going to see if we can get that professor to do the TikTok class again.
Nice. Well, who is it that has the USA Today has the Beyonce beat? Maybe it should be the Bad Bunny beat. Meg, do you want to, we'll let you guys go here in a minute because it's a long day at this time of year. Meg, anything you wrap us up?
Um, I'll just say thank you for everybody like bringing your ideas. I think we learned a lot here as well, and uh, we're going. We're going to try to capture this stuff and get it back out so that we can all kind of like keep iterating on this. We have just a few things to know about what we have on the schedule for the Center for Community News. Later today, there's we're talking about community colleges and how to start or grow your programs there. I don't think any that's going to be relevant to anyone in this call. Then we have a couple of cool things going on next week. We have an upcoming session with the Student Press Law Center, which is always a very well attended one. They're just like in higher demand than ever right now with both internal and external threats to their students' ability to do reporting and also all the other stuff that they do, like pre-editing stories that might be especially fraught or risky, things like that. So they'll just be talking about the state of news for students and the services that they offer. And you can check everything out on our events page. Just make sure you register for this stuff. And we'll send out some reminders as well. So keep your eyes out for some notices from me. And then at the end of May, we will have our annual data report. That's the sort of like big landscape analysis of where students are making news and how much they're producing. And we get a little better at it every year. So hopefully we'll have an even more kind of refined and precise look at what's going on out there. And this is all just like, hopefully can be used to kind of advocate for the entire field. And also for each of you to talk to your administrators to put what you're doing into context, like make a case for the fact that this is a sort of growing field, that students are interested in this, that they have all these transferable skills that are now really recognized as having value in higher education. So we'll have more. Just keep your eyes out for emails from Richard and I.
Thank you, Molly, who had to slip off. Thank you, Holly, and all of you who contributed. And be in touch.